When two people are drawn to each other, the first thing that usually gives it away isn't a big gesture or a bold confession, it's the way conversations flow. Most of the time, when we're speaking with someone we don't connect with, there are pauses that feel heavy, moments where you're forcing topics, or that awkward scramble to keep the exchange alive. But when attraction is present on both sides, that weight disappears. Words just seem to arrive naturally, one after the other, as though the conversation has a life of its own. You could start with something as small as what you had for breakfast, or as random as a passing thought, and somehow it unfolds into an exchange that feels alive, engaging, and endless. The subject doesn't matter, it could be deep or silly, heavy or light, what matters is the energy underneath it. That's the part you can't fake. If you notice their tone shifts slightly when speaking to you, carrying a softness or excitement, that's not politeness. That's interest slipping through in the form of curiosity and attentiveness. They're not just replying, they're investing. It often shows in the way neither of you seems ready to end the moment. You say by the way or "Oh, before I forget," not because you actually forgot, but because you want the interaction to continue. They respond in the same way, adding another thread, another small reason to keep talking. It feels effortless, and that ease is rare. Attraction makes even ordinary dialogue feel magnetic, like every word has a subtle charge behind it. It's in the laughter that comes too easily, the way their questions dig a little deeper than surface level, the way both of you search for excuses to stay in each other's presence through the simple act of conversation. That flow is never an accident, it's the very first spark showing itself. One of the clearest signs that two people are drawn to each other is the way they begin to mirror one another without even noticing it. This isn't something you can force. It happens naturally, quietly, almost invisibly. You sit across from each other and suddenly you realize your posture has matched theirs. If they lean in, you lean in. If they laugh, you find yourself laughing not just at what they said but with the same rhythm, like you're tuned to the same frequency. It might be as subtle as sipping your drink right after they sip theirs or adopting a similar pace in the way you speak. These are small details most people miss, but they're powerful because they're rooted in our biology. Humans have always mirrored those they feel connected to. It's a way of saying "I see you, I feel you, I'm aligned with you," without speaking a word. But it isn't only about the physical. Emotional mirroring might be even more telling. If one of you opens up about something vulnerable, the other instinctively responds with a story of their own, meeting depth with depth. If one of you shows excitement, the other's energy rises to meet it instantly. This is how two people begin to create a private rhythm, where one emotion sets the tone and the other picks it up seamlessly. It feels like playing music together without needing sheet music, you just fall into harmony. What makes this powerful is how unconscious it is. You're not trying to copy them, and they're not trying to copy you. Instead, your bodies and emotions are aligning because attraction is guiding the interaction. It's a sign of safety, of comfort, and of mutual interest. That kind of effortless syncing doesn't happen with everyone. It only happens when two people are genuinely drawn to each other, caught in the quiet gravity of connection. When you're truly drawn to someone, time takes on a strange quality. It stops behaving the way it usually does. A coffee date that was supposed to last 20 minutes stretches into 2 hours without either of you realizing it. A quick phone call meant for a simple check-in suddenly finds you both still talking when the clock strikes midnight. This isn't just coincidence. It's the brain's way of rewarding meaningful connection. When you enjoy someone's company and that feeling is mutual, your brain releases dopamine, the chemical tied to pleasure and reward. That surge of dopamine doesn't just make you feel good, it alters how you perceive time itself. That's why moments that technically last hours can feel like they've disappeared in the blink of an eye. But what's more important than the science is the feeling. You walk away from these encounters lighter, almost refreshed, like you've had a mini vacation from the weight of your own life. Even if all you did was sit on a park bench together, it feels like an experience, something memorable in its own right. The presence of the other person becomes the highlight, not the activity. And when both of you keep finding excuses to create these lost time moments, it shows a desire that goes beyond casual interest. You might notice it in the way you're both reluctant to say goodbye. The words "I should go" are followed by another 10 minutes of conversation, another story, another question. Neither of you wants to break the rhythm because the time you share doesn't feel ordinary, it feels suspended, almost sacred. That distortion of time is one of the clearest signs of attraction. It means you stepped into a space where the rest of the world fades, and the only thing that matters is the person in front of you. One of the most telling signs of mutual attraction is the way two people naturally move closer to one another without even realizing it. With most people in our lives, we keep a safe distance. Everyone has an invisible bubble of personal space they protect, and we only allow certain people to step into it. But when attraction is present, that bubble begins to shrink. You might notice that when you're sitting in a group, they somehow end up next to you, even if there were plenty of other seats. Or when you're standing around talking, you glance down and realize your feet are angled toward them, as if your body made the decision before your mind did. These small shifts speak volumes. It isn't always about deliberate touching or obvious flirting. Sometimes it's as subtle as your knees brushing under the table, your shoulders lightly grazing as you walk side by side, or the way they lean in a little closer when they're speaking, even when they don't need to. These moments don't feel intrusive or forced, they feel comfortable, natural, even magnetic. That comfort is the giveaway. If the attraction is mutual, neither of you pulls away. Instead, you both settle into the nearness as if it belongs there. Touch becomes a language of its own. A playful shove, a hand resting on your arm during a laugh, or a handshake that lingers a second longer than necessary can all carry more meaning than words. With someone we don't feel close to, these gestures would feel awkward, even out of place. But when there's chemistry, they feel smooth, almost expected. Your body recognizes the connection before your mind does, and every small act of closeness becomes another unspoken confirmation that the attraction is real, shared, and steadily building beneath the surface. The most powerful proof that two people are drawn to each other often shows itself after the interaction is over. You walk away and realize you're still smiling, replaying the conversation in your head, catching on little details you didn't notice at the time. Maybe it's the way they looked at you during a pause, or a small joke that felt like it carried more meaning than it seemed on the surface. Hours later, you find yourself wondering if they're thinking the same thing, and then your phone buzzes with a text from them referencing the exact moment you've been replaying. That's not coincidence. That's the connection lingering, stretching beyond the moment you were physically together. Attraction rarely switches off when you say goodbye. Instead, it leaves behind a residue that keeps both people reaching for more. Maybe they send you a meme that ties back to something you joked about earlier, or they circle back to ask about a small detail you shared. These gestures aren't random. They're little threads, woven back into the fabric of your shared connection, making sure the energy doesn't fade. And you notice yourself doing the same thing, finding excuses to bring them back into your orbit. What makes this stage powerful is the consistency. You both invest energy without keeping score. You both look for ways to be part of each other's day, even in small ways. Over time, this becomes a rhythm, a steady presence that feels natural instead of forced. And at its core, it feels safe. You don't just enjoy the fun or the spark, you also feel understood, defended, and valued. When someone becomes the person who lightens your mood, who stays in your mind long after they leave, and who makes you feel at ease being fully yourself, you don't have to wonder if it's mutual. The connection speaks for itself.